Yo, what's going on YouTube, and welcome back to another Mecha Break video of the new series Counter Striker. This is episode 1. Now, I hinted about possibly doing this, and a lot of people were interested in doing this, which is really trying to go and figure out the striker and how to counter a specific striker. So we went ahead and tested out on the last weekend, Saturday specifically. On our live stream, we spent about 4 or 5 hours testing out a striker. Now, a lot of people have recommended this while we were doing the live stream when we did a poll. So the majority of people chose Falcon as the first one to try out to show how to counter a Falcon. Now, I know some people might say it's pretty easy to kind of do. We wanted to kind of show you guys who's the best ones to do it, who are good to defend and stop a Falcon, and then who is just wasting their time going after Falcon. Now, if you're not interested in Falcon, our next episode 2 would actually be Welkin. So if you're interested in seeing that video, stay tuned, subscribe if you would like to see that video. And if you want to be part of the live stream chats to talk about things, check us out Saturday specifically when we do our streams for Welkin and doing our playtest on how to counter a Welkin. Now, if you happen to be a Welkin main, come on over. We can talk about some things that we can be doing to counter you specifically as a Welkin player and just kind of learn the basics of how to actually deal with certain players. Now, because this is the first episode I'm doing of this series specifically, there are going to be things that we're going to have to adjust, and if you see something in this video that you guys want us to adjust, add tips, you should look into doing this, or you should be doing that, or just something that didn't catch at all, leave it down in the comments down below. I want to make sure we get the best video out as possible, specifically if there's some tips and tricks that we should be doing, or maybe the format we should be doing a lot better. I would love to hear you guys thoughts in the comments down below, just so we can improve before our next video for Welkin's live stream. Now, I want to first give a huge shout out to all the people who were chatting in our live stream, and I'm going to be giving a special shout out to all those people who helped us out at the end of the video. Now, I want to give 2 special shout outs right now immediately, to Maya and also Haunted. Those 2 people were able to help us during the live stream, really spend time testing out Falcon and what we can do specifically, and I really do appreciate those 2 for helping and sticking out all the way to the end until we were done actually finalizing all the trainings and testing we wanted to do. So special shout out. Now, their names will still be also as well. I just want to make sure we do a special shout out because they were in the actual training room helping us out in custom rooms to really figure out what is best and how to counter Falcon. Now, before we actually go into the video a little bit further and actually start talking about which strikers are best to counter and everything, I just want to say that depending on your specific skill set and your play style, now a really good Falcon can outplay a lot of these strikers. Not saying that a Falcon player or any mech that we talk about can't handle it if you are decently good with it and know what your roles are and how to use your kit, could potentially still outwin some of these strikers. But this is just to give people a better understanding on how to counter specific strikers. In this scenario, we're going to be talking about Falcon. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Sorry for the cut here. We were going to post this video earlier, but since they did a dev live stream and there are a lot of new buffs and nerfs to certain strikers, we decided to hold off and wanted to edit a little bit of strikers that we're going to talk about. So there will be some notes to some strikers because they are buffing even Falcon specifically as better quality of life. So there will be notes for that as well. And then some nerfs will be done as well. So we will be making some notes to kind of keep in mind with the update coming out on the 28th of July. Back to the video. All right, now the first mech we're going to go over is my personal favorite, and it's one that I've been maining a lot, is Stellairs. Now, Stellairs is probably one of the better units to counter a Falcon specifically. Now, there are things that a Falcon can use to really annoy a Stellairs player or even destroy a Stellairs player. So it does matter depending on your skill sets and how good each other are to be able to outmaneuver and outwin the battle specifically. But a Stellairs player can actually do a really good job at hard countering a Falcon player. But there are things that you have to understand when playing Stellairs. Now, while you're playing Stellairs, Falcon is one of the ones you will be looking at as one of your priorities to make sure you take out. There could be strikers like Serenith, there could be Falcon, snipers, Aquilas. You might want to focus on more than other strikers themselves. Now, when it comes to Stellairs specifically, while we look at playing Stellairs and going against a Falcon player, there are a couple things you want to keep in mind. Now, the grapple hook is one of the best ways to get to someone, grab someone, and stun them, and even do some decent damage. But now, when it comes to a grapple hook, you have to make sure you are very careful when using it because you only have 2, and there are a slight cooldown on there. When it comes to Falcon specifically, if you are a little too far in distance-wise from the Falcon to you, but you still have the giant triangle to lock onto them, there is still a good chance that the Falcon will get the alert that something is targeting it and will be able to do a special movement to make sure it breaks that actual grapple hook. So it's not always guaranteed that you will get that grapple if you are really far away, but still within that target range. One thing you're going to be wanting to look into doing is actually bringing that distance really small, and making that smaller distance makes it easier for you to grab. Now, I'm not saying it's guaranteed every time you do it, but the closer you are to a Falcon player to grapple, the easier it is to actually make sure you get that grapple and be able to stun and pin them down. Now, when you are going after a Falcon specifically, you really want to be watching their movements, because as they do their movements, you can kind of tell how much energy that they have been expending and they've been using so far, and you can kind of go based off of that if they have a lot of energy or they've been doing a lot of movements and you know that they're going to be having to drop really soon or try to hide really quick to get their energy back, and that is when you want to make sure you take a chance to pounce on them. Now, if you have a really good Falcon player, it's probably going to be best to go invisible to make sure you can get on top of them. Now, another thing is you have to keep in mind that can actually counter a Stellairs player will be actually using Falcon's recon ability, which will show within a certain range anyone or anything behind a building or anyone that's invisible, like a Stellairs player who's in camo. So a lot of times when I'm playing against a Falcon player, I try to bait the recon. I try to show them that I'm attacking them, hide, and force them to use their ability. Now, the reason why I try to bait with that is because that's one of the biggest things that they can actually do, is to give away my position specifically. So a lot of times I try to bait it, and once they activate their ability, I tend to backspace or get out of there as quick as possible, far as possible as I possibly can, so I don't get detected. Now, what's good about that is once you bait them to using it, they have a 30-second cooldown on that, and they can't toggle it off. So that's one of the really cool things that you want to make sure, if you can get them to bait, or if you already see that they're already using their recon, you know that when they're done, they have a 30-second cooldown for you to really jump on top of them. Now, if you need to use your grapple hook, you're more than welcome to do it. A lot of people are going to be using their grapple hooks, but if you can get a perfect scenario where you can use your weapon dash and get behind them and sneak and get them with a weapon dash versus your grapple, you would have a lot better success to make sure you can finish them before they can go so far, because as they try to get away from your stun and they try to get out of that stun, they're going to try to get out quickly as possible, but they're going to still be around you somewhat. Unless they deform and put themselves in fast landing and drop to the ground, you can do the same, and you can use your grapple now if you have yet to use your grapple from before and only been using the weapon dash. This is a way to ensure that you have those 2 grapple hooks to really finish off a Falcon player if you need it to. Now, while you are doing this, obviously you're going to be using your third ability while you're doing your combos, while you're grappling towards them, because your third ability is really good. It goes right to the HP. You don't have to worry about you can just ignore shields altogether, and while they're trying to escape, you can also use the third ability to really finish off a target as well, like a Falcon that's running away. But like I mentioned, a really good Falcon player, if they see a Stellairs player, they're going to try to use their recon to point it out to the team. They're going to try to tag you so that the whole team knows where you're at. So you really have to be very cautious, and a really good Falcon player is going to be really high up in the sky and is going to constantly keep moving and trying to be with nowhere near sight with you. But if it happens to be near sight, they're going to use their recon, they're going to try to focus fire on you, and on top of that, they're going to try to get their team to also jump in as well. So you have to be very careful. I've definitely had a handful of Falcon players who have been able to turn the tides, even though I have got the jump on them, been able to turn the tide on me and have the whole team come after me instead. So you have to be very careful when playing a Falcon player. If they're really good, they're going to be really high in the sky, and it's going to be wasting your energy to get to them. So you really have to figure out how to pounce and figure out how to get to them. But overall, Stellairs is a great counter to a Falcon user. Alright, the second striker that is really good against a Falcon player is Panther. Now, Panther is amazing. It's the big brother of Stellairs. It is a melee brawler. And both of these two strikers we just went over, we have beginner guides on these two. So if you're interested, check out the beginner guides for Panther and also Stellairs. But Panther is going to be really good to go after a Falcon. Now, what's really good on the favor of a Panther user is Panther has an abundant amount of energy with their abilities to keep giving themselves energy and some shield to chase after a Falcon. Now, what's really amazing about that is no matter what, you can be weapon dashing, getting right to a Falcon very quickly. But on top of that, it has one of the fastest ways to kill a Falcon if you're able to land it correctly, which is the wombo combo 1-2 punch kill. Now, if you don't already know that, what Panther specifically can do, you can charge up your lance to give you a full charge. While you are moving around, you can hold that charge at all times. Now, the next thing you're going to try to do is be in your melee sword specific position. Now, having that melee sword, if you're able to do the jump, pounce, down slam to stun a striker, you have a split second to be able to do a javelin charge to be able to do more damage. Now, we were able to test this out in the actual training, and we were able to show that it is pretty much an instant kill if you decide to do the wombo combo. Now, if you just want to get the javelin, even just doing the javelin itself would be able to do a lot of damage. So if you were able to successfully javelin a Falcon player, 2 sword slashes from your melee and they will be finished. One thing you have to keep in mind though when you're chasing a Falcon player is, yes, you do have a good amount of energy that you can restore because of your abilities, but you also have to keep in mind that a good Falcon player would know that you're chasing after it and will try to put themselves in a position where they are near their team. So you could be putting yourself out and sticking your neck out in enemy's line, trying to kill a Falcon just to get yourself in a position where the enemy team gets you. So you have to be very careful and have map awareness to really understand specifically where you're at while you are chasing the Falcon player. Now, obviously, a lot of other strikers can be as good as well to take out a Falcon, but these two melee brawlers are very efficient at taking care of a Falcon striker. Now, a Welkin could go after a Falcon as well. The only thing about Welkin is very heavy, and if you use your weapon dash to chase after a target, you will be using a lot of energy to get there. Now, what's good about Welkin specifically is Welkin one slam, the ground slam, would actually do about almost 35% health just from the ground slam itself. Now, if you decide to be able to lock him in a box, obviously that would be the best thing. You can cage that little bird, and we did have some fun of, caging a Falcon, but the amount of damage you could do if you happen to get in that situation where you're able to get a Falcon in a box is pretty much GG's if they decide to be in there. Not saying it's impossible to get out, but it's very likely if they didn't spend all their energy chasing after you, you might be able to get away because they spend so much energy to get after you, but the axis inside will actually be spinning and causing you to stun and also be doing damage to you. So there's a chance that you might actually die. But Welkin spending a lot of energy to chase after a Falcon isn't the best use of their energy, where they could be fighting other targets to finish them off. But Welkin is a really strong target. Can it go against a Falcon? Of course. But is it the best use of their time and their energy? Probably not as much. Not saying you can't, like I said, but when it comes to other strikers, they can do it without wasting so much energy. And really, you want to focus on let the other targets can get it. Now, obviously, if you can get a finish off a kill of a Falcon, awesome. But your main focus is really to attack other targets. So like I said, I'm not saying you can't do it, but you will be wasting a lot of energy just to get yourself in a good position, a good vantage point to take care of a Falcon. Another striker we try to use very well, and we try to, is Alysnes. Now, Alysnes is actually really interesting. It has range. It also has some melee abilities as well. And if you're able to get the stun off with an Alysnes to be able to take down a Falcon with a stun, you probably do give or take about 30% damage of their health if you're able to land that stun. But a lot of times you will be wasting a lot of your energy. Now, what's really good about Alysnes is you have multiple ways to almost like, you know, resurrect yourself in a sense, where you have the smaller mech to then come back towards the bigger mech. So even if you get yourself into a situation, you have kind of ways to get yourself back up and kind of escape. So you do have the option if you chase after a Falcon. But what ends up happening a lot is Falcon is very mobile and can really outmaneuver a niche player. I'm not saying you can't do it, but it might be one of those where if you have the situation, there's a Falcon nearby and they're not playing that great, you can snag them. But a lot of times it's going to be better to range them. If you're able to get lucky and go after them with a melee, great. If not, you could be using your time chasing after someone else and get rid of someone else, because Alysnes is really great. It has range, so if you were picking off a Falcon from range and then finishing off as you get closer. You also have it where, like I said, if you are in the mini form, you're able to shred the armor and you're able to be a little bit more mobile. You can probably chase a little bit better, but you have to be very careful with it. Not saying you can't, but I personally feel, sorry about that. I personally feel that Panther and Stellairs does a better job at chasing a Falcon versus where Alysnes can be better at choosing other targets specifically. But if you're in a good position where you have the advantage, they're not paying attention, you're going to be able to take them down pretty easily. Like I said, just doing the stun alone is going to give you about 30% damage to their HP, and then you can finish them off with some range abilities as well. So it's possible. It just might take a little bit more maneuvering to get around to a Falcon, especially a really good Falcon. So you just have to keep that in mind when playing this character. Now, another striker that's really good when it comes to taking care of a Falcon player are both of the snipers. Now, obviously, a Falcon going after a sniper can disrupt the sniper, can really bother them. And if you are not the greatest sniper, a Falcon player can actually really destroy you pretty quickly. Now, if you do like sniping, both the snipers are really good. The best thing, obviously, when it comes to a sniper is obviously your advantage point and being far away from the combat as much as possible. Being so far away from the combat and being able to actually use your zoom 4 times the zoom or more to be able to actually do a lot of damage while you're being so far away will make a Falcon player have to go all the way out to you, and there'll be one less person that's out on the field. Now, with that being said, both snipers can do really good job at taking care of a Falcon. When it comes to Falcon specifically, both the snipers, you can hit them while they're doing their special movement, but you won't have a lock onto them. But if you can project their special pattern that they're about to do, you can kind of specifically know where they're going to go and kind of target that area and be able to still hit them if you're a really good sniper. But what Aquila does really good is finishing off targets really well. So just by having that third ability to be able to almost hit any target really quickly, AoE just by spamming the button is really good as well. So if you see a Falcon who's really low level, you could be able to quickly snipe off of them. Even just a couple hits from a Aquila before a Falcon come to you, then you're able to use your 3 and try to get them. Now keep in mind, your third ability needs a lock on, so if there's a Falcon player doing their special movements, then you're going to be having a really tough time with your third ability. In that case, you're going to want to toggle off your third ability until they're done with their movements. The better times to do this is when you are noticing that the Falcon has been spending a lot of their energy. Again, keeping in mind that as they use their energy, they're going to have to stop somewhere, and you can be having a good vantage point and take them out. Now, if you happen to be chased by a Falcon, being able to quickly get out with Aquila and how fast you're able to get out with Aquila's ability to speed out of an area is really, really good. I went against a few good Aquila players where they're playing super far away, super high in the sky, and they're able to really energy manage themselves between their hovering and their other abilities and then the regular energy to be able to manage their energy. and they are really tough to kill because they're so far away, they're so high in the sky, no one's really picking them off, and one being uncontested is really bad for the enemy's team because they can't have someone attack it. Like I said, if you're really far away, taking any striker away from the battlefield to try to get to this character makes it really tough. Having Aquila being able to focus fire on a Falcon, after a few shots, you'll be able to pretty much lock in the final kill. And if a Falcon player is chasing after you, you can possibly land your grapple to stun them and be able to land a couple shots before they have to leave. Hopefully by then you have been able to finish them off to not worry about them. But both of these snipers are really good. Now even Narukami is also really good. Keeping in mind that Narukami, one of the best things is to go invisible. So just like we talked about when it comes to Stellairs, when it comes to recon can really mess you up. So you really want to make sure you're pretty far away so that anyone coming to you is really wasting their time and energy to come after you specifically, and while you're focusing on the enemy's team. Now the damage that Narukami does is pretty good. If you charge up your shot to 300%, which is the max, you don't have to hold anything. You just look down the scope, keep an eye out, be 100%, and then you hit it. Now, you do more damage when you have more drones out. Now, when you have 2 other drones out, you do about 33% or 1/3 of the damage fully charged. So you want to make sure you have both your drones out as well when you're doing your attacks. 3 good 300% damage with your drones can take out a Falcon pretty quickly. Now, again, depending on your playstyle and your skill level, a really good Falcon can actually do pretty good against a sniper, specifically Narukami. This is when you need to understand your kit. You also need to understand your advantage point and what is your goal as your striker that you are. Knowing your role specifically will really help you out because then you can really focus fire on who you are using in this scenario. The snipers are really focused on those targets that are disrupting the team. At the same time, they can actually focus fire on like Triceras and Stegos and really start to annoy those heavy hitters, bringing those shields down for those characters. When they start to notice that a lot of enemy team strikers are really low in health, they can use those abilities and to land those kills. Like I said, Aquila with the 3rd ability, being able to make sure it snipes and get those low HP strikers. Same when it comes to Narukami, getting those 300% fully charged with the drones up, being able to take out a target because how low it is really solid. But when it comes to Falcon specifically, it doesn't take a few shots to be able to take out a Falcon. So having a good vantage point for both snipers and understanding your kit can really take out a Falcon before it even comes to you. Now, when using both of these snipers, if you happen to have a Falcon that is pretty good and is outmaneuvering you and is really annoying, that is when communication is very important. You want to make sure you communicate with your team. Hey, this Falcon player, hey, get this target over here, focus on this target, because then someone else or other people can help take away that Falcon so that we can have you start focusing fire back on the objective. Like we mentioned, the other strikers that could be a little bit more important to take care of. Now, there are priorities when it comes to whatever striker you are, who you want to make sure you kind of go over. We kind of talked about it briefly in the beginning. Depending on who you are, your roles is going to be important to understand who's your priority and focusing on your priority versus trying to gang up on one specific striker, which could be helpful. But you really want to make sure you are focusing on the main targets that you can specifically take care of pretty easily without having your team. And if you need your team to ask for assistance, then. But again, both snipers are pretty solid against a Falcon player. All right, the next striker we're going to be talking about is Luminae. Now, Luminae is a sleeper. I think a lot of people don't understand that Luminae's ability to damage over time is super duper solid and is one of those that is really good against a lot of targets. You eat away their HP by ignoring their shields altogether. So having a couple DOTs on a Falcon specifically as they're running around is going to make a Falcon player think twice before jumping in trying to disrupt, because how low their HP can quickly get. And while they're just trying to bombard the team, you're able to throw a couple DOTs on them and having them get really low health. Now, if they don't have a healer on their team, even easier to be able to snag it. Now, what's really good about Luminae specifically is they have a way to energy regen a lot quickly and move around the map pretty fast, so they'd be able to stick with a Falcon player if they really wanted to be able to take out that Falcon if they need to. Alright, and another good mech that is really good against Falcon, surprisingly, is Inferno. Now, Inferno has a couple things that goes very well for it. The first ability and the second ability are really good at melting a lot of striker shields. The first ability is really good when you're up close in person to even get rid of some of those missiles that Falcon could be doing. That is almost like Tricera, and it would destroy most of the missiles that are coming at your team or yourself. And while they are really close, they will also be taking damage, and one of the beams will latch onto a Falcon and start taking damage and really doing a really good amount of damage on a Falcon player. And then the second ability, the actual charge up beam that it does from this core, that is really good for attacking a Falcon when they are range. You have a little bit more forgiveness when you are really far away. Both the abilities 1 and 2 become really tough to move around freely quickly. So what you really want to be using is the third ability. It has a lot of things that goes for it. The third ability is a booster kit. It also does a little bit more damage, but it also allows you to also move around a little bit more freely, so you can quickly do those turns quickly, and being able to get in a better position just in case a Falcon player had to adjust and move around. You'll be able to actually kind of follow them a little bit better with that third ability active, and being able to be a little bit more free. And on top of that, you can also do more damage with the booster kit as well. So overall, I think Inferno is a really good pick. Inferno can do a lot of solid damage and get rid of a lot of people's shields. So Inferno is really on the top of that list, specifically for getting a lot of people's shields down. But on top of that, when you have a Falcon that is just really annoying, you can use Inferno to get rid of a Falcon. Not that bad either. What's also really good, if it's a Falcon player decides to be kind of close to an Inferno player, you can also use the main weapons, the left and right click, to be able to do shotguns, bullets, blasts of the energy that it does. So if they are still doing their movements around you, the downward spiral or the loop-de-loop, you can generally shoot in that direction like a little shotgun, and then tap on the trigger, so you can actually do a blast of energy, and that blast will still do some damage to the Falcon player. So even if you're not locked on, that's pretty good as well. And if you really want to, you have the range for it and the time and the opportunity, you can charge up both your guns and have them fully charged at the same time, and then release it to do one big blast. When you start seeing a Falcon player get close to you, you can do all of these blasts and shooting your guns while you're doing your first and second ability, so you can really melt a target really quickly when you are cycling through your abilities. And I just think overall, Inferno can not only melt a Falcon pretty decently, but at the same time can also be very good at getting rid of the shields of other players while they has the beam out there. But on top of that, being able to also get rid of the heavy missiles and the light missiles that is shooting out with the first ability, if your team is by you as well, that can be very helpful. So not only are you really protecting your team by using that ability to get rid of all the missiles, but you're also doing damage to that striker as well. So I think overall, Inferno, I think is almost like a little sleeper pick for a lot of people that they don't really use. I don't see a lot of Inferno players, and I'm starting to realize how Inferno is very niche, but is actually really good striker for a lot of other ones that we would go over later in another video, who are Inferno best targets to go after. But if you are an Inferno player and you see a Falcon, you can still take good care of a Falcon yourself. You just have to be a little bit more smart, and you hope that you can land those abilities really well. All right, the next striker we're going to talk about is Tricera. Now, Tricera, can it do good with a Falcon? Yeah, it can be decent with a Falcon. It's not the best target specifically. What Tricera does really good specifically when it comes to a Falcon is getting rid of all the heavy missiles and light missiles that a Falcon player can do. Just like Inferno, with this first ability, being able to remove all these missiles can almost negate an attack altogether, which is really solid. all those missiles can really take a toll on your team if they're not paying attention to it. So having a Tricera being able to deflect and destroy all of those missiles is really super duper solid. But there is a problem with when it comes to Tricera and even Stego, is they have a small little hitbox that they can only go up and down to, and that's in their range. Now a really good Falcon player would know that, and they know how to play around it, so they're going to be able to go really high and be away from your blind spot, and you can't shoot, so you either have to demorph from a fortress mode or whatever turret mode you're going to be in and relocate and try to get another location so you can shoot a Falcon. So a Tricera player, can they actually attack a Falcon? Yes, but a lot of times you will be wasting your weapons to go in your bullets to go after a Tricera, where you're going to be focusing on really using a Tricera to go after other targets that are a little bit more easier to get. But keep in mind that if you're out of place, a Falcon player can do a lot of damage to you. Now, one thing you're going to see with the Tricera is some B-roll of going into where the crystals are. Now, on these extraction maps where there's energy crystals, if you don't already know about the map, there are energy crystals. You can land in them, you can sit next to them, and they will give you more energy. They will also give you faster regen on your shields, but they'll also make it impossible for the team to lock onto you. So by disabling the radar and knowing that you're there and not being able to lock onto you makes it really tough for a Falcon player to use their missiles and actually do damage to you. Now, if they can see you, they can use their normal gun, but it's not as effective as using those missiles. So keep that in mind. If you are any striker, if you're going against a Falcon player or any player specifically, it's a little bit more tougher when the melee players are on you, because they can kind of hit you in the vicinity and do a lot of crazy damage. But when it comes to like a Falcon player, a Falcon really doesn't want to be that close to a Tricera, or anyone like that. So if you're having issues with a Falcon because it's really annoying and you need to get some cover, go into one of these energy shards area where you can be able to get rid of that target lock, get your energy back, get your shields back, then you're back into the match. Now, obviously, this is only specifically on extraction maps. If you had to be somewhere else, you just have to be a little bit more understanding of what your map is and trying to get the better location. But you want to then communicate with your team for them to focus on the Falcon, because the Falcon is bothering you or is annoying you, or even the Sky Raider. But in this video, we're talking about specifically the Falcon player, and let the other strikers, who it's really their responsibility to be going after these light mechs. Now, the same thing goes for Stego, the exact same thing. Now, the only difference is obviously Tricera has a 360 shield where Stego has it right in front. It's still really clunky to move around, so you have to be careful. And he does have, Stego still has that limit of up and down, how far it can look up and down, so being careful with that. Now, a Falcon player not paying attention to a Stego can easily take down a Falcon pretty quickly if they're not paying attention to a Stego and they're within that range specifically. Can you do it? Yes. If you are trying to purposely fight a Falcon one-on-one, it might be more of a challenge because they have the advantage of being really high where they can't see you and you can't aim up there, or even really down low depending on how you're situated and how you position yourself. So they can be really low shooting you up and you can't look down unless you deform and change into your mobile form. So both of these are very interesting. I think Tricera has more of a unique take to it because it can get rid of those missiles. But when it comes to both of these two tanks, it is really tough to go after a Falcon. Like I said, it's not impossible. It's just you be wasting your energy and resources to it. If you happen to have a Falcon that you're going against that is not really paying attention to those cues, then you can be easily able to take care of them. But a lot of time, really good Falcon is going to understand that there are limits to certain strikers, and those are your limits. Now, both your Pinaka and your Hurricane can use defense to be able to block a lot of the missiles and a lot of the shields by putting the shield out there for your teammate. But a lot of times, not saying you can't do it, but you will be wasting a lot of your energy and your role specifically for, let's say for an example, Pinaka, you're really trying to heal your team and also give the special ring to maybe a target that can use it not only to heal, but also use it to your advantage to take out another target and really melt down. So what you can do specifically as a Pinaka player is be able to give your shield to, let's just say, one of the other strikers that are a little bit more efficient at taking care of a Falcon, and then they can go ahead and go after the Falcon while you are also shooting your ring, so that you're able to do damage specifically to a Falcon player. But if you're just going to go after a Falcon player just with your base kit, you will be wasting a lot of your time and energy to do that versus using it somewhere else to help your team out a little bit more. But you do have shields. Same goes for Hurricane. You do have shields to deflect all those things as well. They're not as great to go against a Falcon. They're going to be more supportive style, and Hurricane can definitely use his shield to defend. Now, when it comes to the other striker, when it comes to Serenith, Serenith can do a pretty decent job with the range weapons that it has. If you happen to catch a Falcon with no energy, dropping an orbital strike would do a lot of damage to them specifically. But you're not going to always have it, so you're always going to have to charge your main weapon to be able to do some damage from range versus the orbital. But if you happen to land the orbital, great. I kind of wish that the grapple that Serenith has was also kind of like a stun, almost like Stellairs. That it just stuns, it just doesn't pull you to them. But that stun, if you can stun a Falcon player, that would be really dope. But in this scenario, Serenith can attack a Falcon, it just won't be as efficient, where you really want to focus as a Serenith player to be really focusing on like your Triceras and your Stegos, those people who just want to be on the objective and you can actually bother them as well. So like I said, Serenith can do it, just won't be as effective as the other strikers that we talked about. Now, when it comes to the last one, it's pretty much Falcon. It is really Falcon versus Falcon. Who is the better Falcon to be able to understand their kit and be able to possibly animation cancel, deform their flight mode, and maybe fast land and get out of a situation to then get behind them, to understand that there's small loops and then there's big loops that you can make depending on the speed that you decide to do the loop specifically. There's a lot of things that it becomes down to skill as a Falcon player that you want to understand. If you are chasing another Falcon, that you want to make sure you're able to understand the kit as a Falcon to be able to outmaneuver, to be able to outwin the fight and win that battle specifically. So that Falcon versus Falcon is more of a toss-up depending on the playstyle of that person's skill level to see how good they are versus another Falcon player. Now, that's pretty much all the strikers that we have currently that we were able to try out. Let me know down in the comments down below, what do you guys think about this? What are some tips you will recommend? I probably missed some things. We did about 5 hours live stream testing out all the mechs, seeing which ones are the best, which are decent, which are good defense, what some mechs can actually do and actually attack the Falcon and still do some decent damage, but maybe their time is better spent somewhere else, doing some damage somewhere else. And then just overall, some that are just good at defending certain things. But we tried all different mechs and see how it was. And this is kind of what we got into. Like I said, if there are any tips you can recommend, maybe I missed something, you want to recommend something down, leave down in the comments down below. We can change the format a little bit. I will have Welkin coming up next for this Saturday. So if you're watching this video, this Saturday we'll be doing a live testing for Welkin on how to counter Welkin specifically. You can leave your tips and tricks on there. If you are a Welkin main, feel free to come by. I would like to get some more experience from other Welkin players to be able to understand how to play against a Welkin player. And if you have time, if you are in North America servers and you want to just hang out and just want to chill, come by the stream, chill a little bit if you want to. And if you want to be in the actual custom room and training, come swing by. If you happen to be obviously in other servers, you can still swing by, maybe chat a little bit, you know, maybe give some recommendations and tips. I'm really trying to make this series a little bit more informational. This is the first episode of this series that we have done. I'm going with Counter Striker right now to be able to counter specific strikers. And as we continue to go, the goal is to do all the strikers and how to counter them, the best way to counter them for each specific striker, which ones are the best ones, which are not the best ones, but they're decent, and which ones are not the greatest to go after this specific striker. I would like to do every single striker, and as we continue to get more strikers, we would have another episode specifically for those strikers when they come brand new. And then let me know what you think about this. Now, I know a lot of people said later in the stream, like, oh, we decided to do Falcon first. Are we really people having issues with Falcon? Some people were having issues. I think depending on a Falcon, their skill level, some can be really good, being able to fast land, being able to understand your movements, how to get in and out quickly and dive and really annoy players and use your team to your advantage. A lot of people have found it really tough to chase after a Falcon, or a really tough time to understand why it can't get after a Falcon. Like I said, like when I first started to play Stellairs, I had to understand that the closer I am to a Falcon, the better it is to snag that grapple hook versus even though how far I am. So a lot of things, you know, came to me learning as I was playing, but I wanted to just make this series and everyone decided to go with Falcon first. But if Falcon is not your cup of tea, you don't really care about Falcon, but you want to care for Welkin next, come by the live stream. If you can't come by the live stream, just keep the bell notification on so you'll be able to see the next episode, which will be Welkin, and being able to see how tips and tricks against specifically countering Welkin. And that's pretty much it, guys. I appreciate you guys. I see you guys in our next video. Peace.